Jaron Ennis against Eimantas Stanionis. A lot of people are saying this fight is a foregone conclusion, that Boot is going to destroy Stanionis. Well, you guys might be surprised with some of the things I have to say in this video, because I think there's a chance we could all be in for a little bit of a shock. Hello everyone and welcome back to A Guy Called Henry. I wasn't sure if I was going to cover this fight, to be honest with you. I am interested in it, but I wasn't sure if I was going to have time. But a couple of you wrote to the channel and said, we need you to break down this fight. So I thought, you know what, who am I to say no to the people? It was about 3 people. So for the 3 of you that asked, here we go. But hopefully some more of you will also want to watch this video. Now, I've covered a couple of Boot Ennis' fights now at this point, and I have quite a few opinions about him, and I'm probably not on the hype train as much as some people are. I think that Boots is a prodigious talent. I think that he could actually be phenomenal. I think he could go all the way to the top. I think he can be a Hall of Fame fighter with the talent that he has, with the physical attributes that he has. But in his last couple of outings, he's shown vulnerability, and he's shown that he can be got to. Stanionis, on the other hand, is a much lesser known name, and in fact, that entire welterweight division is a bit of an unknown quantity. There's not much star power in there. Boot Ennis would be the one guy where you look at him and go, yeah, he's the man. But it looks like we're about to get an influx up from 135/140 in the form of Ryan Garcia, in the form of Devin Haney. It looks like a lot of these guys are coming up to 147. And if that's the case, if you're Boot Ennis, you want to hang out there as long as possible. You want to obtain as much power as possible. Teofimo Lopez as well, I should say. But basically, you want to get as much power as you can in anticipation of those guys moving up. And if you can hold on, if you can stay at that weight for long enough, maintain those belts, then you're going to get shots against some big names and possibly be quite a sizable favorite, because he is absolutely massive at 147 pounds, whereas these other guys are coming up to the weight. Now, I definitely have some, I don't know if they're controversial opinions, but maybe a bit different from the other stuff you guys have been hearing, because a lot of channels out there sort of fanboy over Boots a little bit. I'm going to give you the most objective, realistic perspective on where I think he's at that I can. Before I jump into this one, guys, don't forget to bang a like on this video. If you like the work I'm doing, please subscribe to A Guy Called Henry. I want to keep pushing the growth of this channel. And get your comment in the comment section below. Who do you think wins this fight? And do you agree with my comments I'm about to make about Boot Ennis? All right, so in order to do this tactical breakdown, you know, guys, often I will do my game film analysis. I pull up the fights and all that sort of thing. Haven't had time this week, but I have watched Stanionis. I've studied him, and I have a lot of thoughts based on my my analysis I've made of Boots' last couple of performances. I actually went back and watched those to remind myself of some of the tactical things that I noticed about Boots in those performances. The first thing I'll say about Stanionis is that this dude, I think he's a problem for absolutely anybody. I think he is a very, very difficult fighter to beat, because he does a lot of things very well, a lot of basics very well. There's nothing super flashy about him, but he's super tough. He constantly comes forward. He has a nice tight high guard. He's very, very disciplined. He throws so many punches. He seems to have a pretty good chin. And I think he's quite a hard puncher. I mean, it's hard to say. He doesn't have all knockouts on his record, but if I just pull up his box rec to remind myself, he has 9 knockouts and 15 wins. Now, look, most of those stoppages, if not all of those stoppages, have come against really, you know, unknown quantities as far as I'm concerned. So to say how much power he has is quite difficult, really. When he stepped up against Butev and against Maestra, he's won decision points victories. But needless to say, watching him, he seems to have quite a bit of pop in his shots, enough to make the man move back. That's for sure. And he is constantly coming forward. There is a lot of bent arm shots, but he also has a very, very nice double jab. He's very balanced with his feet. And overall, he's an extremely solid fighter. But solid fighter, extremely solid fighter, doesn't scream somebody that can give Boot Ennis problems. So let me explain to you why I actually think this fight is a lot closer than most people are anticipating, and why I actually think that there could be a real possibility of Stanionis winning this fight. And I will caveat all of this by saying that it's all in Boots' control, in my opinion, because he's got all that talent, he's got all that ability. For me, it's just about him figuring this out, working out how he goes and performs to the best of his ability. Because at the end of the day, the issues that I've seen from Boot in previous fights have been more about what he's not doing rather than what his opponent is doing. So let me explain. Basically, Boots has had 2 pretty shoddy back-to-back performances now where he's been hit quite a bit. The first was against David Avanesian, and Avanesian's a good, solid, welterweight, sorry. He's a good performer, he's a good fighter, but he came in on short notice for that fight. And the second one was against Karen Chukajan, who Boots has actually beaten before. And to be fair, sometimes that can be a difficult thing to deal with. The guy you're in there with, he knows you that bit better than the average man, but really, you take that as an opportunity when you're a top talent to go and get them out of there. He won the first fight on points. It was the same thing second time around, although it was a very, very close fight to my mind. So the issue in that Avanesian fight, there was 2 things that were the main issue. One was the fact that Ennis was just sitting in the pocket way too much. and he was holding his feet too much, and he was getting clocked a fair amount by Avanesyan. There's a lot of concerns with Boots Ennis about his gas tank, and about the fact that with this IBF rehydration rule, that potentially it is meaning that he can't perform to the best of his ability at 147 pounds because he's just a little bit too weight drained when he's getting to fight night. But without question, against Avanesyan, he got hit a lot, and I watched that and I thought, gosh, like, I mean, it's a win. It's a solid win. He's knocked the guy out. But at the end of the day, you can't get hit like that as you got the levels. And I don't think there would have been a single top fighter that watched that and would have been worried about Boots Ennis based on that performance. And then you roll into the Chukajan fight, and that's the opportunity to go and right those wrongs and really put on a stellar performance. And I saw a few more technical and tactical details in that one that really were a bit troubling, I suppose. And I think that a lot of it came from the fact that I believe in that fight, his mindset was very much, he was rushing. He wanted to get him out of there. And even his corner was saying to him, just get him out of there, man. The tactical and technical analysis from them, the guidance they were giving was so basic. There was no nuance, no detail, and it was arrogant in a way to just assume that he could go and just get him out of there when Chukajan's a very, very good fighter. Boots' biggest issue in that fight was he kept getting hit with left hooks. He was consistently hit with left hooks, especially when he was in the southpaw stance. And then when he switched into orthodox, it was actually the right hook. And the reason for that is when he's in southpaw, his jab hand, his lead hand is his right hand. So Chukajan was firing left hooks over the top of that jab hand, because what was happening was, and what Ennis likes to do is he pings that jab, but he nearly always brings it back low. That's okay if you are using your athleticism and your speed to then, move your head or, create a bit of distance, get your feet moved, create an angle, move backwards a little bit, create a half space, let them fall short, counter. But Ennis holds his feet a lot. And even when he's holding his feet, that jab hand comes back low very often in both stances. And Chukajan did a really good job of timing as he was bringing that jab back, launching those hooks, and he was hitting him clean multiple times, also hitting him clean with some straight shots as well. And Ennis took far too much punishment in this fight. It was not a good performance from Jaron Ennis. We did see flashes of power in there, flashes of that ability to really cause damage, but everything's a little bit too one-paced and he becomes a little bit readable, and that was what was happening. Chukajan was timing him, but in general, it's really ill-discipline with the guard when he's in the pocket that is problematic. And that is why I say that actually, I think Stanionis could cause him some really serious problems, because Stanionis will constantly be looking to engage in the pocket. He will constantly be marching forward. And there's a couple of different ways you deal with that. Either you meet him in the pocket and you also have a high guard. If you don't, like Ennis often doesn't, you will get hit. And the second he lets that jab go, the way that Stanionis stays in the pocket, the way that he fights, I believe he will be able to time Boots just the way that Chukajan did. And I think Stanionis potentially punches harder. I'm not saying he definitely does, but he looks to me like he could punch a bit harder than Chukajan. I think his engine's even better than Chukajan's, probably. I mean, based on what I've seen, he looks like he can throw so many shots, keep coming forward. He's obviously got a good chin himself. I think that this fight is the perfect test for Boots Ennis to let us know, is this guy actually learning from his mistakes? Is he actually improving? Or is this guy actually just limited? Is he a world-class fighter that isn't going to go on to do all the things we think he might be able to do? Is he just going to be that guy that, he wins a world title, maybe he even unifies, but he isn't elite. He's just very good in a division that's not that great right now. But I'm telling you now, Stanionis is going to push him all the way to the edge. He's going to really, really make him work. He will keep him honest in this fight. And if there are any mistakes in Boots Ennis' game, Chukajan will be in the pocket. He will be in position to land and make him pay. The biggest test here as well is really going to be of Boots Ennis' stamina. If he is too tight at the 147 limit with the IBF, with that rehydration clause, with the 24-hour rule where the next day you've got to check a weigh-in. I think it's 10 pounds you can put on from one day to the next. And I think Boots Ennis is massive. I think he's much, much bigger than 157, which is what you'd weigh in at the next morning. He probably walks around about 170, I reckon. He is a big boy, possibly even higher. Stanionis will test him. He will test that stamina. He will test it. But what I will say about Stanionis is he also is a beatable fighter. And we need to see him in there with top-level opposition to know just how good he is. I think he's very, very effective, the Lithuanian. But there are things that he does that can be timed and can be countered. For example, because he is so aggressive, I really like when he leads off with his jab. I think it's fantastic. He's got a very nice double jab. But he is quite square. And so when he misses with that jab, he's there to be hit. Not only that, but oftentimes he will lead off with bent arm shots. And in particular, I've noticed him lead off with a left hook to the body. And when someone does that, it's a shot that we saw Tim Tszyu timed with recently when he fought against Murtazaliev. Murtazaliev scored a particular knockdown that I'm reminded of when Tim Tszyu dipped to his left, went to shovel in that left hook to the body, and he just fired a straight counter right down the middle. Murtazaliev. He timed him perfectly. And I think the key with Stanionis is to throw when he throws. And this is the thing with Ennis that I didn't like in his last fight against Chukajan. He was leading off too much. He was too impatient. He was trying to bust through the guard, and it meant that he could just start to read and time Ennis, Chukajan this is. So I think a really important factor in this fight for Boots Ennis is to make small adjustments with his feet, use that jab to manage Stanionis and his march forward, and then when he is in the pocket, make sure you got a nice high guard, but you can time him because he does open up, because he is very square in the position of his shoulders. It means that when he throws those bent arm shots, there will be opportunities for straight punches down the middle. And I would say, as a rule of thumb for Boots Ennis, he should be looking to start most of his combinations with a straight shot, and then I'm sure the bent arm shots that he likes to throw to the body in particular will start to open up. Stanionis has got average head movement too, but he does hold a high guard, and you can work with a high guard, you can manipulate it. It's actually something that Stanionis is quite good at, is throwing around the guard himself. The only other thing I really want to say quickly is that something to look out for with Stanionis when he comes into the pocket is he often leans forward. And I think that the Boots Ennis uppercut could be absolutely prime for that position that he takes up. And you see it quite a lot. There's a lot of fighters that do it. They like to lean forward, find their position, throw in bent arm shots from there. Sometimes they'll lean forward, bait you, and then they'll let you throw, and then they'll pull back or they'll dip down even further. But that tendency he has to lean forward in the pocket, I think that will really suit Boots Ennis if he can control the range with the jab, maybe measure a little bit, throw it down to the body, throw bent arm shots to the body. I really think that that's actually a great opportunity for Boots Ennis to land a crushing blow. If he can get that uppercut going, I think there's a big opportunity for that against Stanionis. But what I'm saying is this fight is going to be extremely competitive. And honestly, if Stanionis were to win this, I would not be hugely surprised. But what I would love to see is a Boots Ennis that comes in focused, motivated, sharp, with a perfectly tailored game plan for this particular opponent. And I think that is entirely possible, and it's time to see it. It is time for Boots Ennis to step up. And if indeed he is that world-class talent, that elite level talent, it's time for him to show it to us. Because the last two performances really haven't been great. And I do believe there is a very, very exciting fighter in there. The other thing, and this might be a little bit ominous, but I just want to leave you with this thought before I go. Stanionis is still with PBC as far as I understand it, and it's not often that PBC involve themselves in cross-promotional fights. But when they do it, they tend to do it because they think that they might be able to rob the bank a little bit. And what I mean by that is, you're sending over somebody to fight on a different platform who has not much to lose and a lot to gain. Now, Stanionis, obviously, he can lose his belt, but his name isn't that big. If he can beat Boots Ennis, not only does it elevate his name, but also he's suddenly the unified champion at welterweight, and he's probably the biggest name at welterweight. And PBC tend to do this when they think their man has a good chance as well. I mean, I'll give you an example, one that I'm sure none of you have ever forgotten, which was when Andy Ruiz completely shocked Anthony Joshua. And that was when PBC was even more insular. They never really let their guys go and fight out on other platforms, but they thought, you know what? He's going to get well paid, so he'll owe us a favor. And actually, Andy Ruiz has got the perfect style to beat Anthony Joshua, as it turned out. We didn't realize that at the time, but it was a very, very troubling style for what AJ was. At that time, it was a great style to beat AJ. And I think that the boxing heads, the matchmakers at PBC, are very smart people. And I think they're quite good at this sort of thing. So maybe that's a little bit ominous, but potentially they're thinking we can send Stanionis over there and we can garner more power in that welterweight division, because actually this kid's got a very good chance. And even if he loses, it's not the end of the world. It will grow his profile a little bit. He'll get more fights. But PBC tend to be quite calculated about this kind of thing. And so I think there is a real potential there that they're sending Stanionis in, as I say, to rob that bank. I actually think that this is a particularly hard fight to predict when I actually sit back and look at the two men. I think Ennis has fought the slightly better level of opposition, but Stanionis, this is his chance to step up and show us all what he can do. I want to try and make a prediction here. I mean, I might change it once I've seen the weigh-in, but right now, I mean, I'd like to try and make a prediction based on what I've seen. I think that Stanionis is going to cause Boots all kinds of problems, as I've said. I think the main thing for me is that he will have to tweak the way he fights slightly for Boots. If Boots is feeling the pressure to lead off in this fight, and he does it a bit too much, as I say, as he did in his last fight against Chukajan, I think Stanionis has to get his head movement on point. I think he needs to move his head on the weigh-in a little bit more. Oftentimes what he likes to do is he comes in very square with that high guard, with the earmuffs up, and he will then look to work once he's in there, and it was very much a case of you go, I go. And if he fights like that, I do favor Boots Ennis. I do favor Boots Ennis because I think he is the harder puncher, and I think he's got a couple of different ways that he can change his style on the fly in the ring, but we need to actually see him do it. My pick is Boots Ennis on points. It's entirely based on the potential performance I think we could see, but based on their last couple of performances each, I think it's a dead even fight, and I am almost leaning towards picking Stanionis, which sounds a bit crazy, but, I'm just trying to be objective. I'm trying to pick based on what I'm seeing. I'm going for Boots Ennis on points because I think he has the higher ability, the higher ceiling, the higher potential ceiling for a great performance. But damn, there's every chance Stanionis can win this fight. Guys, get in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about this matchup. Who do you think is going to win? As I say, once we've seen the weigh-ins and stuff, I might change my prediction. But right now, I'm going for Boots Ennis on points. But it is a reluctant prediction, I have to say. If someone said to me, what would you like to do? What I'd like to do is sit on the fence. But I always try to make a prediction. And as I say, I think Boots Ennis has got levels to go through. Guys, I hope you've all enjoyed this video. If you have, please subscribe to the channel. Get your comment in below. Let me know who you think wins this one. Bang a like on the video. And as I always say, on to the next one.